I'm going to cover it up. I'll still be able to see when it's going to start. So I think, okay, so it's starting.
Cover
Okay.
it up.
I see. There we go. All right. Oh, apparently I have to mute it. Otherwise, I hear both of us. Me twice. That's not good.
So
Okay, so Annette, thank you. I'm just gonna breathe and we're gonna start the show, if that sounds good.
perfect.
Okay,
Perfect.
all right, so here we go. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here. You are going to be so happy you're here. I'm Kim Sorrelle. I write, I speak. I get to do so many fun things in life, but my favorite thing to do by far is to meet people. And I get to meet so many extraordinary, wonderful people. And today I have extraordinary of extraordinary. Annette is with me.
Oh,
And I just love her. And you're going to fall in love with her too and want to do her dishes for her or something because she is that fabulous. And we're going to talk about being too strong for your own good. And which is really interesting to think about, right? Because we think we all have to be so strong. So let's just get on with it. Annette, welcome to the show.
thank you so much, Kim. It's an honor to be here, and I love you too.
Oh, well, thanks. Well, it's an honor for me to have you. I'm so happy that you're here. So I want people to really get to know you. So first, I would love to hear about 8-year-old Annette.
Oh, eight? Oh, I think of well, by 8 years old, just so you know, I had cancer at the age of 3. And
Really?
so, yes, 3 years old. And then on top of that, I was unfortunately being sexually abused by one of the cancer doctors because I had an unusual cancer. I was seen in 2 different hospitals, but being researched. And so by that point, when I think of poor 8-year-old Annette, I was still in the mix of that.
Oh
And
my,
so it, if, that's where I want to go back and hug her right now. So thank you so much for bringing that up because that's like at the age where it's so, we're supposed to be living life and being happy and feeling safe in our bodies and enjoying life. And unfortunately, it didn't start that out that way for me. So hence, that's what led me to the rest of my life.
yeah. Well, okay. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Years old, you're diagnosed with cancer. That's gigantic and huge. You obviously lived through it. Praise the Lord. But then you're being molested by a doctor
Right.
and you're so young. Like, were you aware? Or
I knew something was wrong, but I could not, when you're in the umbrella of what's supposed to be safety and it's supposed to be somebody who has your best interest and supposed to be healing you, right? And I just knew that wasn't my experience with any other doctor. I wasn't left alone in a room with any other doctor that locked the door. That I could remember, because by 10 years old, I think that was the last visit, and I refused to go. And I think that's the only way that I was so happy that my mother was conscious enough to say, "Oh, if you don't want to go, that she honored that," because it really, you would think that, oh, of course you have to be researched and continue with this, and it wasn't. So she allowed that, which was great. And it really wasn't until I would say a couple of years ago that I found out that I wasn't the only one. And so because I wasn't living in the state at that time of New York. I was living in Florida. And one of the governors signed into motion where you can kind of go back and look at if you were abused in any way as a child. And all the stories came out. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not the only one this happened to. He had 9,000 patients. And so that that experience really shaped it gave me the opportunity to really heal on a level that I kept saying, like, what is it? What is it about me that I can't really heal? Like, what is going on? But that gave me validation that it wasn't just me, and it wasn't just the experience of being in the doctor's office. This was really happened to me. And unfortunately, it kind of really shaped the rest of my life of not feeling safe in my own body.
wow. Holy cow. Yeah, there's so many things to kind of unpack in what you just said because man, I'm so sorry you went through that. First of all, that's horrible. But there is something validating when you know you're not the only one.
Right.
right? That it's not in your, like you said, it's not in your head. It's not something you're imagining, but it's validation that you're not the only one. And there's actually this documentary that I just watched about a girl who was raped by a man. She was doing a study abroad and raped by a guy at a travel, um, like a travel agency that would do short trips, whatever. And she went on one of the short trips, and I think it looked like that's when her healing began, was when she found out she wasn't the only one.
Right.
Yeah. So, but the other thing that it does to you is makes you more vulnerable.
Of course.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. How did that play out in your life? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I was very, there's one thing about me, and I think I was told this too over and over again of how strong I was. And so when you're told that, it was like, I felt like I can get through anything. So there, that's how I kind of lived my life, but it stopped me. That vulnerability, of course, stopped me from things that I really wanted and loved to have done. Because I just felt like my worthiness was tied into how much I can do for others. My worthiness was let me be nice and appease everyone because I don't want anybody to hurt me.
mm,
Right? There was a lot of that kind of shaping of living in that I call it survival mode because it's just to feel safe. On one end, what beautiful, like our bodies are so amazingly intelligent. And how amazing that in order to get through life, that I created, and we all create, it's not just me, these wonderful skill set of how to get through it, right? So we're learning how to like, really calm our nervous system. And then, like, how brilliant are we to say, okay, well, if I don't want somebody to hurt me, then I'm going to do what they say, go above and beyond, serve, you know. But my value got kind of tied into that. If we do it too much,
mm,
and then we're not honored in any way,
right.
So, that's the downside of being so strong, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But that it comes at a huge price to learn that,
Yeah.
right? And yes, the things that we're told stick with us. And so you're being told you're strong, which I'd be telling you that too. I mean,
Right.
you're 3 years old, you're diagnosed with cancer. I mean,
Yeah.
you had to be strong. You had to be tough to go through that. And it wasn't until you were 10 that you stopped seeing cancer doctors
That one
at
research
that time.
hospital, yes.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the other one continued, until I was, I think 17.
So
So
so you had a couple kinds of cancer.
I had
Or
one,
they were
yeah,
studying you at the other hospital. You
exactly.
were down
And
there. That's right.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. So
then
what kind of cancer was it, by the way? That
it
you,
was something that they've never seen before. So I think that's what made it so odd that it was a cancer of the adrenal gland, but it wasn't something that was a typical childhood cancer. And so that's why all eyes were on trying to figure this out. And when I went back, when I was I was diagnosed with breast cancer like when I was 35. And I went back to the hospital. The same director was still there, believe it or not. Pediatric director was still working. And she said it was something that they never seen again. So it was like very interesting. It was but part of the endocrine system. But then I kept getting cancer back. And so that's why it just wasn't leaving. And when that happens over a period of 9 more years, it just, like coming, you kind of get this sense that like I couldn't hide anymore. I couldn't make believe it didn't that it happened to me, because there's a tendency of wanting to go back to normalcy,
Mhm.
but any type of life-changing event like that changes you, and you can't really go back to because you're different on so many different levels. So that's why I think by the fifth one I went into chronic pain. By the sixth one I said, listen, I know I have to do things different. I had to really go internal and look at how I was living my life. What was I thinking? What was I putting in my body, on my body, just every aspect, which I was doing. It's not like I wasn't paying attention, but to make those, set those boundaries and to look at how much I was still continuing to do for others and not looking inside, that's what started changing.
That's so interesting. 6 times you had cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I can't even imagine. I mean, I had breast cancer,
Uh-huh.
and one hearing that one time was
Right.
plenty
Right.
and way enough. And I can't imagine you get through and then hear the words again. And I think I'm curious about this with you. So I had my daughter had seizures,
Mm.
and then so she was having seizures, and we were dealing with that. And then a couple of years later, her younger brother started having seizures,
Oh,
and people would say, "Well, you were already used to it." I'm like, "Oh no, I was
no,
maybe
it's
even
worse.
more upset the
Of
second time,
course. Of course.
right?" Yeah. So what was that like for you getting another diagnosis? Like you're not it's not something you just get used to. Well, yeah,
No.
just used to it, right? So
No,
it just
they do. Does, you're right. It does get progressively worse on a level because you keep kind of blaming yourself of what you're doing wrong. Why is my body the way it is? It's so interesting to that there's a tendency of blaming ourselves, right? For right, because that's like we have to be doing something wrong. There's got to be something that I'm doing right. But really the what I've learned over the years, the body is such a messenger that somewhere along the line there was an imbalance. And whether that imbalance was on an emotional level, whether it was on a spiritual level, whether it was on a physical level, I don't think it's any one, it's all. That there's something that is presenting that was kind of not keeping us in balance for some, and that's why I say that the only way it stopped was me really saying, if I want to live on this earth, I really have to start looking internally. And I think what kept me going, quite honestly, I don't speak about this too much because sometimes when, I feel like it was a spiritual awakening. But if you don't mind, I feel like there's a support system here that I can speak of God.
yeah, of course.
Um, yeah, so it wasn't until I was maybe it was at the second or third, it was between the second and third diagnosis that they found something in my bone. So I had to do this bone operation, which kept me out of work for 6 weeks. And my father had died. I'm in this cast, and I'm like, was infertile. I couldn't have children, and I'm like, what's my purpose? I can't work. Like I'm not of value of any to anyone. How can like everything just came crashing down? And I said, okay, that's it, God. I'm done. Like this, I've had enough. 2 times having cancer. I'm done. Take me. I'll come back and do it a different time. I can't. This not now. And at that particular time, because it was such a depth of darkness I can't even describe, and I never had that before, I was pulled up because I heard this kind of harmonics on that I've never heard. It was like as if the angels were singing my name in light. That's the best way I can describe it. And it just snapped me out of where I was because I felt it everywhere in my body, like my body was vibrating. And when I looked up, I saw rows and rows and rows and rows of light.
Mm,
And but the amount of love, the amount of knowing that everything was going to be okay, the amount of purpose, like everything was shown, like this is happening for a reason. This is my purpose. And they showed me like I'm supposed to be here, and me, the version of me at a much older, right? It was just like an older version, calm, collected, healthy, and helping others. That was the main thing.
mm,
And that vision, I didn't tell anyone for many years because I thought I was nuts. I was like, am I going crazy? Did this really happen? But I knew I wasn't. It was something that I was saved, and I was saved for a reason. And so all the other diagnoses, no, I have to be honest, of course they were painful. Of course they were on some, it's trauma when you're hearing those words. It's a traumatic experience, not only for us as going through it, but also for our family. So, and then there's guilt with that. So it's so intense of emotions that how can it not impact our body? But I kept saying, this is Annette version going through it, but I'm going to keep this future version very clear. And it pulled me forward that I'm here for a reason and let me get through this one step at a time. And that's how I did it. But I don't know, honestly, Kim, if that I want to say, oh, gee, if that didn't happen to me, I would still be here. No, I don't think I would be because I just felt like that despair that you feel, that hopelessness, that when you hear those words, it's very hard unless you have something outside your, like having that cushion of safety that where people are saying, no, here's hope,
Mhm.
where sometimes it's hard to get that for yourself when you're going through it, right? And there's always hope, always, that's the way I view it.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Holy cow. Um, I uh I've known people who have had visions
Yeah,
or have had, near death experiences,
right.
right? And have just not been able to talk about it for a long time. So
Yeah.
it doesn't surprise me at all that you couldn't talk about it. Probably it was, I'm not sure why that happens, except it's so personal for one thing, but also it had to be hard to put into words.
I couldn't put it into words. So true. It's so true. I just went by that feeling though. I just knew that feeling that it's not of this earth. I can't say that. I call it a near life experience. That's what I called it like later on. Um, yes. And it's like I wish that of course I didn't wish the circumstances for anybody, but to have that experience and to know that we are all so connected and that connection is love, you know,
Mhm.
on for everyone, the two-legged, the four-legged, it doesn't matter. We all are connected. And that really validated that for me.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. That was beautifully said. So you're able to
Oh,
put some things
yeah.
beautifully into words.
Thank you.
Yeah. But man, it is a lot to go through. And it's good that you had that experience. I mean, what a wonderful gift
Yeah.
so that you kind of looked at things a little bit differently with the next few diagnoses, but you also lived in chronic pain.
I think that really, if I was to look at what, I mean, cancer is not easy, but it was because of the cancer that I went into chronic pain, right? But I think it was also the emotional impact of having all of that happen in such a short period of time. And then I think my body just went, can't do it. That's it. I'm done. And so that, oh boy, did that kick my butt. That really kicked my butt. It took me a while to get out of that cycle of. I continue to honestly go back and see what can I resolve some of the traumatic attachment that I had to some of the events because our bodies do a great job adapting. So there's a tendency to think that well, this is just who I am as a person, but really it's an adaptation to what we had experienced, right? So it was going back and looking at my belief systems and working on that and looking at the conditioning and unraveling. So it took me a little bit of time to work on that, but I'm so happy I'm getting to a point where I'm here and working and being able to now help others. So
Yeah, and help others in such a beautiful way.
thank
And
you.
in a way that only you can. Because when you go through something, other people can say, "Oh, I know how it feels," or "Oh, I can guess how it feels." And it's like until you go through it yourself, you
Yeah.
can't. You can't. You can imagine
Yeah.
and you can think you know how you would feel, but when when you really go through whatever it is, um, that's when you actually know. Because otherwise, you can sympathize and you can have empathy, but you don't really know. And I just heard somebody say that actually in something I was listening to. They were saying they hate the words, I know how you feel.
Mm,
Yeah. So because you don't, I mean, until you go through it, you really don't.
yeah.
So there's not a lot of people that can relate to you because you had cancer 6 times. And I don't know anybody else in that. You're the only one I know.
So ironically, I met two women just on like LinkedIn and 5 times. So that was the most I'm like, how could, I mean, even 5 times. Like we don't hear about this. And I think that in knowing that there's a possibility that you can still live, because it's scary. It's a scary thing that we hear that and but I don't know if any of us I mean, we all have an exit at some point, right?
Right.
And sometimes we don't know, like, because it could be the person can have one cancer, the same two, and one chooses to stay and one chooses to go. And I don't mean that it's a choice, it's not on a choice of a personal level. I think it's between God and our, it's a contract that, in some way that okay, so maybe the healing is leaving, because we all have to go so I really I don't want that failure that we feel because I felt it for so many years that I failed. My body failed. Why do I have chronic pain? I'm a failure, not in the way of as a person, but why did my body fail me? Right? I can't seem to. And reminding me also not being able to get pregnant is, oh, I'm a failure as a woman. Too, that I can't continue to carry this child, because I had a couple of miscarriages. So there's and no, at all. To all of that, it's the fact that our bodies are just brilliant messengers, and whatever's meant to be for us will happen at a level that maybe we don't quite understand as personality understand, but God does. So that's the way I kind of go, okay, so now I have two adopted beautiful daughters. I mean, who in the world, like I never would have considered that at all. Like that wasn't in my game plan, but there's always some type of, when they say one door closes, another one opens, like there, if we're looking, the answer is there.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I think uh, there's a couple ways to look at it. And the way I look at it is what you just said, that there's cancer in the world, things happen. You want to do some internal work like you did, which is amazing. Uh, but it's that God is always there and can make something good come out of something horrible. And the silver lining on it all, right? That exists and you just have to look for it. I totally agree. Like uh there has to be something good. Otherwise, man, people that don't see the good or don't feel like anything good has come out of a bad situation, you can live in that bad situation for a really long time.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And it's not that the situation was a good thing. That's not, however, what we can do is transmute that in some way to get the gold out of, like alchemize it, get the gold out of the lead out of the bad situation. There's a way of doing that if we kind of reframe and we reshape the experience. And what we took, because even looking at we're different as a result. I'm not certainly not the same person as I was. I feel like we're constantly changing these
Yeah.
days,
Yeah.
right? But that's not a bad thing, It's I so yeah, I definitely agree to your point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's an interesting thing. Um, because God's just kind of cool that way. That's how I look at it, and it's like here's this wonderful thing, like your daughters that you would not have and you can't imagine your life without. And so what a beautiful gift after a couple miscarriages. Sorry about your miscarriages. That's so hard. And so yeah, you got this beautiful gift and that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So you career wise, it had to be a struggle because you're, off for 6 weeks with this surgery, and then you're onto this thing, and then that takes time
Right.
and whatever. When do you feel like you really got finally in a groove, or did you early, or like going, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to help people?
Yeah. Well, ironically, I was helping people who were downsized from their jobs. So my job was to help people figure out like career development, figure out what they really wanted to do now, what's their mission, what's their purpose. So I loved what I did. I was downsized myself, so I thought this is perfect. I went into that, went back to school, went into doing that. And I was doing it for 15 years. And then finally by I believe it was the fifth or the sixth. The pain, I just couldn't continue. Uh, the tolerance that when you're in that much pain, you can't even think. And so once I realized that I can't really be present, because one thing I love to do is just sit and be present with somebody. It's like there's a gift in that. It's so healing to be in that, just to allow that space with one other person. In any, you have two or three, yes, but it changes. But one-on-one, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And so I had to, and that was depressing for me. Honestly, it was. I had to stop for a while, and I only saw people one-on-one here and there over the years. Did a couple of things that were kind of more fun, like real estate and that things where they were projects that were fun, but I could not. Go back to the corporate type of job that I had. So, but it took me, I would say, a good 18 years to
Mm,
finally feel strong enough. I married everything that happened, not only my life experience and the executive coaching, the life and health and wellness coaching that I have, because I kept wanting to learn so much about my own body, right? I've tried everything, functional medicine. I would just everything that I've kind of merged together, trauma work that I've done, and also the courses. And I kind of put everything together and I created the Two Strong method because I felt that we all are in a society and it's global. It's not just the United States. This is a global issue where we're pushed, we're rewarded for pushing ourselves, for asking for the least amount, for doing for others, right? And they're beautiful gifts that we give to people, but when it's out of balance and giving too much where then we don't have time for ourselves, that's when we see health issues. It comes at a cost, right? There's either the cost of the health, the cost of relationships. We can't really be present. We're constantly in our head because we're thinking of the next thing to do. And that's when I realized that, you know what, it's not just me, it was my clients that were experiencing this. And how do we then shift that from what I call survival strong? Because if we're doing that kind of pushing, sometimes what I found is it's usually when I'm speaking to someone, it's usually something that happened to them in the past.
mm,
That it's a traumatic response, it's conditioning and programming, but it all kind of there's a multitude of situations that impacted their life, especially when they were children. That's helping them, right? Because it helped them to adapt. It was adapt to behavior, which was great, except that we're doing it at too much, giving up too much of ourselves. And so once we work that out, and then well, I called it being soul strong because I feel like when we get to a place where we can actually feel the calmness and the passion and the compassion, not only for ourselves and yes, for others, we can give so much more if we have the compassion for ourselves.
mm,
And if we really shift that view, that's how you feel just more, not only it's like, yes, empowered for yourself, but I don't, for me personally, if I feel like I'm giving to others, like I feel like my purpose is, is that's what I'm here to do. But I have to be very careful of how much, even to this day, of, okay, Annette, how much should you give? Because now we have to now refill for ourselves.
mhm,
Like so, I call them two strong patterns. One of the two strong patterns is they call it the empty. Is like the empty cup healer, a person who just keeps giving. These are the nurses and the teachers and the parents, and like we're giving and giving and giving without taking that time to refill our own cup. And it sounds so simple to do, but man, to get us to do it, even for myself, it's like giving yourself permission,
mhm.
right, to
Right?
take time for yourself. And so sometimes it's going through like, why? Why can't we give ourselves that grace and that permission? Like there's something under that piece. And so that's where the work is kind of looking at the reason why that actually, and where did it start, and how can then we then transmute that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love what you're saying. Uh, I was raised in a house with two type A parents, and it was work, work, work. Like it was never a 40-hour work week. I was, we were all entrepreneurs, my brothers and I and my parents, and so the work is never done. And uh, it's a lot. And then your parents on top of it, and your wife on top of it, and your neighbor on top of it, and you whatever. And it's because it's interesting because self-love really is what you're talking about, right? Self-compassion, self-love, and which I think is so misunderstood. Like I've known people who thought that that was selfish, that you shouldn't be thinking about yourself.
Right.
And it's like, well, it's not selfish in a bad way. It's the most loving thing you can do is
Yeah.
be kind to yourself and compassionate and love yourself, because then you do have more capacity to help others and love others. And so, yeah. So what do you say to people about that?
Yeah, it's like, you know what? And it's so funny that you say that because the worst case scenarios are always the entrepreneurs because it's like, because they love, especially if they love what they do, they're like, I can't stop and I don't want to stop. It's like so, and I understand that because when you have that drive and passion, the only issue with that is, is what this is what, well, why can't you stop? What
Mhm.
is it? I mean, you can stop yourself, like, but why can't you? Like, but what happens when you do, right? So sometimes it's in that silence of stopping. That's where the answers come in as to why you can. Because sometimes I'm just picturing in your household, especially if you have your parents who are entrepreneurs, the message is, right? This is at the conditioning is your value is doing,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So continue doing because I had that same messaging. We weren't allowed to lay down. That we weren't allowed to stop and do or daydream. Oh, I was not
Right.
part of the household. So we had to constantly be. And it sounds terrible when I say this, but when we're teaching children to keep doing like that, you're also teaching that we have to prove our worth, and our value. And so there's so much healing that is in downtime, but we're not taught. I never learned that as it. So now, of course, you're going to feel guilty when you're stopping because how dare you, you know?
Yeah.
We like this, right? So it does. It takes a little unwinding to do that. And still to this day, Kim, I wish I can say, oh, I'm healed. It doesn't work that way. I have to really make a conscious effort, put a timer on to stop myself.
Mhm.
I can just go because I love what I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wish I can say, oh, there's an easy answer. But once you understand what it's coming from and understand that, you know what, I'm doing this because I love myself so I can give for others, that seems to be a way, especially people who are the givers, to say, well, if I look at myself as an example, how many cancers does it take? That's what I have to say. How many cancers does it take, right? For me to learn my lesson,
Mhm.
and not that I didn't, this isn't a purposeful thing that I consciously did, but I also know if I don't do that, I know what happens to my health. And so that's the place where I have no choice. I have to walk a very narrow line. And maybe it's others don't have to, but for me, I have to kind of, I was like that bowling lane. If I don't, I'll go right into the gutter. So that's how I look at
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it comes down to boundaries, which are
Yes.
can be very difficult to set and very difficult to change. Like once you've given a boundary, if you want to change it, how that can be hard. So how do you transition from me, from the workaholic family, whatever, when I sit down to watch something on TV just to take a
Yeah.
break for a minute or whatever, I
Right.
hear this voice in my head going, Kim, you're supposed to be Kim, you've got all this,
Right.
Kim, whatever,
Yeah.
because that's what it always was. It's my dad's voice that's in my
Right.
head.
Right.
I recognize the voice. And he wasn't certainly saying it to hurt me,
No. Great.
but it's there.
It's
And
there.
So how do you transition from that to it's okay to sit down for a minute? You can relax for a bit. That's all right. Take a day off.
I think I always like to do things with that are fun. So I named that person in my head, right? So she was, and still to this day, it's no, it's funny because I haven't used this in such a long time. Oh gosh, now what did I name her? But it was like AA, so it's like this kind of annoying Annette. That was her name.
Bring that. Yeah.
So when I hear that, it's like there she goes again. So once you detach and know that that isn't really you, you at the core of who you really are, Kim, as this beautiful gift, right? She would never accept somebody like you would never speak that way to anyone, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
So it's like it's that piece of us that for some reason we've tolerated for so long. So when I hear annoying Annette, I go, oh, there you are. Okay. So let me put you in the trunk of the car. I actually I have the vision putting her in the trunk. I'm like, I'm in the driver's seat. I'm going. And after a while, it's to keep it as a game. It kind of takes away that judgment of we have of ourselves
Mhm.
that not only are we're reacting to the judgment that we're getting to ourselves, right? But when we don't listen to that judgment, then we're judging ourselves for not listening to it's a
Right.
cycle, right? So, and we'd never treat anybody like that. If it's someone that we love, we just wouldn't. So then how are we allowing this for ourselves, right? So, but it starts with that's how I started doing it is just naming her when you hear the voice, say, okay, I see you. Okay, so right now we're going to put you in this box here and allow, like, just to make her separate. And then there's something about boundaries that you said, because what the, what I've learned over the course of like working with people is when you're setting boundaries, boy, are people not going to like that, and including yourself, you know, because being in standing integrity for what you say you're going to do and actually doing it, you know. But that's what it is. That this is the first step really in setting boundary with yourself is that detachment piece and knowing it's not really you and what your mission and purpose is not helping. It's certainly not coming from a place of love.
Mm.
You can
Yeah.
kind of say
Right.
that it is, right?
Right.
But really, there's nothing loving about someone going like this to what you're not doing. And that's the first step if we were to think about boundaries. But in terms of boundaries for others, well, boy, when we start like just a little boundary that we set, people don't like it. So they're going to start like acting up in all different ways. The thing to keep in mind is when you help somebody with setting that boundary, because it's not just you're helping, you're really helping them because you're giving back their power. Because in essence, we're kind of taking their power away
Mhm.
by doing things for them or allowing them to treat us a certain way, or, it's having been married to emotionally abusive, it's man, it's not an easy thing, to kind of navigate, but after a while you start realizing that this is not healthy. It's just not a healthy situation to be. And so taking that power back for yourself to know that that's what you need to do in order to help them is the way to.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you're saying that because that's so true. And I think sometimes we feel like we need to stay in a relationship that is toxic, that's not doing us any good. Sometimes you don't have a choice. I know that there's times that where are you going to live? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? Like,
Right.
it can be so hard to leave a
Right.
toxic relationship, but staying in it enables the person who's toxic to stay in that behavior. Like there's no space for them to change.
Right.
And it can be really hard to go, whatever, like I'm drawing a line. And that can be hard to do, but you're really loving them in doing that and loving yourself, obviously, because holy cow, whatever. You don't want to be in a toxic situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So the boundaries. And I love that you name her. I'm gonna have to think of a name for
Yeah.
that voice in my
Yeah.
head. Yeah.
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 Like
Yeah.
critical Kim,
Yeah.
that might,
Yeah.
I can help you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's
Exactly.
true, because it's
Yeah.
exactly what it is, right?
Yeah.
So it's and then of course I have on the opposite side for the soul strong piece where for who I want to be, I say awesome Annette, like something
Yeah.
fun, something funny, which is like just something that's fun that you know the difference between the two. So when you hear it, it's like you're separating yourself, you're becoming much more aware. Just in that process, you're becoming more aware of the things that we say to ourselves. It's
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great because I can totally see how it would make you separate it in your mind, get in the trunk, whatever, go away,
right,
go, down the block, do something. But when you can, because it doesn't belong there,
right.
right? So it's not like you're kicking part of yourself out, you're kicking out old trauma that doesn't belong in there to begin with.
It's not really you.
It's not
Like,
really,
look at right. If you look at it that way,
yeah,
this is conditioning. This is belief system. That's not really you, And guess what? It wasn't your dad either,
yeah,
right?
right,
So it's
right.
conditioning from him too. So it's like we are, just like generationally, just going down the line, and somewhere along the line, it has to stop.
Yeah,
Someone's
yeah,
got to stop it, right? So
that's true. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think as women, we're so programmed to be everything to everyone all the time. And so it can be really hard to take time or to think about yourself at all. Can feel so strange because you think about everybody else all the time and what they
yeah.
need and what you got to give and whatever. So yeah, finding that time and finding that space and figuring it out. And yeah, it's a good thing to do and makes all the difference. So I love your book title, Too Strong for Your Own Good. And because we think of strength as an attribute, like this is a good thing. This, when people say you're so strong, like you were told from the time you were a little girl, you're so strong. They're saying it because they think it's a good, positive thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
I would love for you to talk about it.
Yeah, it is a good thing, right? It's good to be strong. It's just that we've taken it to the extreme, I think, in our culture. It's not like it's just in the individual, it's also culturally accepted and pushed work-wise. That's why there's so much burnout. Schools, you don't really see the emotional wisdom. It's like only focused on our intellect, not on how emotionally balanced a child is. The healthcare system, unfortunately, it's profit over people. Like we're seeing it in all different areas of our whole system. So it is a systemic issue. But it has to start somewhere. We have to start making those internal changes somewhere. And that starts with ourselves and to look at, okay, so I want to make sure that I'm in balance. I want to make sure that I'm able to sustain this where, like, how can I have a true strength, like true strength that's balanced, that's loving myself, that's I can really speak to. I call it being soul strong because it's if we're looking at the what's we're passionate about in life and what we are more calm and clear, we become more creative, we become more able to actually deal with stress better because we're focusing on us and balancing ourselves. And that's the way that we can sustain ourselves in this lifetime, going forward. How it is right now, it's way too stressful. It's way too out of balance. And that's why I'm saying we have it. The change starts with us individually. Eventually, I'd love to see that change on a systemic level. Uh, like I would love to, like I say, put the soul back into the world because
Yeah,
we've lost it.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. I totally agree. I mean, it's like I have a friend, John Suzuki, who says we've gotten so smart we've forgotten our heart.
Oh, I love that.
I know, isn't that good?
I love that.
John Suzuki, he's the guy. So yeah, but it's so true. Like we've
Yes.
forgotten it as a worker, as a boss, as a parent, everybody else. Like um, we're just going through the motions quite often of things. And, you say profit over people, man, that's like everywhere. Like
Yeah.
I think about the things that hit the news, the good things that hit the news, right? Like, what companies are out there that are really treating people right, that are really caring about people, and they're people over profit companies, right? Well, the reason we know about them is because it's rare,
Right. It's so
right?
true.
Yeah. Because if everybody was doing it, they wouldn't even be talking about it.
Right.
But it's because it's so rare. But can you imagine a world where that wasn't the rare thing, but
Right.
that was the norm to be heart-led, people-led leadership, right? Yeah.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be beautiful?
Yes.
That we're allowed to like speak our truth because even when we're at work, no one's talking that truth because they're afraid, unless they're in a corporate mission that's allowing that, and I hope and pray that that's where we're going to, why? Because we can do so much in the world if we allow people to be creative and allow them to be themselves and not this kind of, if you say that, then you're in trouble. And, it's like, it's a very different, it would be a very different world.
It would be a very different world. And it's a shift. It's a shift. We think there's only certain areas of our life that we have to love people, or that we have to be compassionate to people, the people that we give birth to, or the people we're related to, or the people we're good friends with, and everybody else. And certainly not at work, whatever. And it's like, well, your outside life comes into your work life.
Right.
And that's unavoidable because there's only one of you.
It's
So
true.
it's going to happen.
Right.
And so, to take a moment and say, hey, I know that your kid had a soccer game last night. How did it go?
Right.
Just to have a human conversation instead of what are the numbers, da da da,
Right.
whatever. Where's the performance? And it's amazing what changes in a company when that's done. When it's led with heart, production goes up,
Right.
quality of work goes up, retention goes up, bottom line goes up. Yeah, yeah, but
Less
it's not
days
a
off.
system, right? It's a heart shift.
Yes. I
Yeah,
love that. It's so yeah. So that's I think like something that we can envision all together to be able to do.
right.
We
Yeah,
would all be happier, I mean, for goodness sake, look how many hours we spend at work. You
yeah,
know,
no,
and to enjoy it and to enjoy the people. You don't have to get along with everyone, but for the majority of people, there's always be some type of, you know, uh, and that's just part of human nature. But listen, just to be respectful, how about that? We'll start with that. How are you? It's just
yeah, yeah.
common.
Right. Well, yeah, I know. Just start with that. Well, and if there's somebody who is difficult,
Yeah.
figure out why.
Right.
What? Because every day that they've lived so far led them to who they are today. So why do they have something going on at home? Did they have something bad happen growing up? Did they, have a bad experience that has shaped them into a grumpier person? Or, but figure out the why, because when you can get to the why, then you understand who you're talking to.
Right.
So otherwise, you have no idea. You just think they're grumpy, or difficult or whatever. Well, why are they? Because we all have whys. We all have
Right.
reasons. So yeah,
That's the
yeah,
truth. Love it.
yeah. But so good, Annette. I love what you're doing, that you're helping people understand. I love that you come from this place of having to figure it all out first to be able to help people. And so it's wonderful to work with you because you're that many steps ahead of whoever is going to come work with you. And that's what you want in somebody, is for them to be a ways ahead of you so that they can say, well, I do know how you feel. And if you do these things, whatever,
Right.
your system. And so it's so good. How can people work with you?
Oh, well, I have one-on-one. I'm in the middle of creating this program where it's like called I think we're going to call it the Too Strong Reset, which would be the first step. But really working one-on-one, there's ways to go about doing that on my website, AnetteDeMattio.com, and then start from there. But I'm in the process of building out that. that at least the first the 6 weeks with 6 weeks program. So, but yes, that would be fun. But one-on-one right now. So, and then eventually it will be groups and stuff.
Yeah, and who knows when somebody's going to listen to this. So by then, you know,
It's
some of you, you're already doing it. You've already been doing it for a while. So that's really awesome.
yes. And
And
wanted to
you're,
say also that I'm in it as well. Like I feel like the most important thing that we can do is just keep working on ourselves. So I'm in the process. Like I don't mind saying that. Well, listen, this it's hard for me as well. Like I really maybe because I loved working with people who actually could admit things like that. So it's like right, like they need to be real. Yeah, because we're all in this together, and so it's okay to not be, perfect. We're not supposed to be. It's be perfectly imperfect. That's how my motto is. Like I stop beating myself up, and just continue to grow. And that's the best we can do is become more aware of who we are, who we truly are as a person, like what's underneath all of this, like who we really are, because that will shift your whole life if once we see that inside of ourselves.
yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such great advice. If you could have somebody start something today, one thing that they could do, what would you say?
Um, I would just stop a few times a day, put your hand on your heart, put one on your stomach, and just to kind of picture, just take a couple of deep breaths and just say, I am love, I am loved, and I am lovable. Just to remind yourself of your own greatness, of your own beauty, of the reason why you're here. Because sometimes we get into this do and we forget the who we are, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. That is something somebody can start right now and would make a big difference in anybody's life. So that's so good. Annette, this was so fun. Is there anything that you wish you could have said that I didn't ask or we didn't get into?
This was so much fun, Kim. I wasn't expecting to go into all these different areas, but I think we've covered a lot.
We have covered a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I so appreciate you. And you've got your book, and
Yes.
people can go get that. And we'll have links to everything, of course, in the show notes. And so, and think about it, everybody. Stop being too strong for your own good. Think about taking care of yourself a little bit more. And thanks, Annette, for bringing that to mind and in the way that you do. And I just appreciate you so much. And I appreciate everybody watching. Thank you so much. And if there's somebody you know who could really benefit from hearing Annette, please pass this episode on, subscribe, and share, because she said some really great things today. And I know that I can think of people that I need to send it to right away. So please do that. And thank you for sharing your time with us. And I just want to say, until we see each other again, that you keep your heart open and you live your love loud. There we go. There's the episode.
Yeah, such a good interviewer.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Uh,
I'm gonna